Okay, so we have this recording now. I think we'll kick off. What do you reckon? Because I know people have got time. So just to let folks know, we have had a few questions in from different people already. Sarah's had a list of those, so we can have a look at those. We are recording this. If you want a copy of this afterwards, let us know and we'll get that over to you. Same for you, Sarah. If it's useful for you to have this in your library of conversations you've had with people, you're welcome to have this as well.
Thank you.
I think we will kick off. I'm going to open the chat box throughout this. If you've got questions for Sarah or there's anything else that you want covered in this session, stick them in there and then I will visit that regularly and go from there. So,
okay.
Can everyone hear me? First questions. So I've got Siobhan, I've got Jafar, I've got Brian on at the moment. I know there's some others to come online. Can everyone hear me? Just give me a nod or do something or pop it in the chat box.
I can hear you, but I can't see the screen. All I've got is people. So if chat box comes up, can you just let me know what the questions are?
I certainly will do. I certainly will do. And you can see me, Sarah?
No, I can just see like blank images. So don't worry. We can, as long as people can hear me, it just means that we're basically in process of moving to different offices. So we're half in one and half in the new one. So it might be because of that. But yeah.
Let's have a look. Right, so everyone can hear me. We'll start. What I can't understand is why you can't see me.
No, I'm just in a. Don't worry. Let's
Jafar, Brian, and Siobhan, can you all see me? I just wonder if it's the Sarah's and or ours. Can you all see me? You could see me, but not now. Okay. There you go. You should be. So Brian can see me. So I think it's something kicking up at your end, Sarah. But we can see you, so we'll go from there.
It may be because I've dialed in through the computer and not through the phone, maybe. But yeah, we'll crack on because
we can see you, and that's fine. So who's joined us already? A very warm welcome to a very special webinar with a very special guest speaker, Sarah Cripps from Salad Skills. Sarah is, in my eyes, I've just been saying to the people on with us earlier, an expert in apprenticeships. And I'm going to let Sarah introduce herself in a moment. You can always speak better about yourself than other people can. But I know Sarah's also got a passion about apprenticeships in the accountancy profession as well. So I'm going to hand over to Sarah just for a quick introduction about yourself and about Salad Skills.
Okay, thank you. So, hi everybody. I actually set the business Salad Skills up in 2012. My background has been a combination of working in the funding agency side that's funded government qualifications, and then also working with various organisations. And my first ever customer was Northampton General Hospital, who back in 2006 said they thought apprenticeships were the future and is it something that we could support on. And because I'd had graduate recruitment experience, I thought I'd give it a go, but you know what, it'll flop. I don't see this working. And so it literally absolutely changed my perception of the kind of people that were applying. And we all know where the sector's going now. All sectors are going in terms of apprenticeships. So what Salad Skills does is two sides of the business. One is recruiting apprentices, and we use various assessment tools including psychometrics, and then we also do the quality assurance. So we work with all sizes of businesses. I don't know if people are aware of the apprenticeship levy, but that's taken us in a very busy direction at the moment, supporting organisations with their quality assurance and making sure that they get up to date with the standards, and also finding the right training providers to deliver a good programme and making sure that that's okay.
Okay, that's great. So it's important to understand, as I say, where Sarah's coming from and the aspects that she brings. So I'm going to invite you to start to drop any questions you've got for Sarah about apprentices in the accounting profession in the chat box. Now we'll monitor that and feed those back to Sarah as we go. But we've got a few questions prepared, and I think you've had a couple also through from Michael Hem, haven't you, Sarah?
I have, yeah.
I think so. We'll come to those at the end. It's a bit like telegrams at a wedding, isn't it, that one? Sarah, just to kick us off then, what are your general thoughts about apprentices in accounting?
Well, for us with accounting, there's basically, and I don't know people's knowledge, so but there's been a major overhaul with apprenticeships in general. So historically, there were what was known as a framework, and now they've now become standards. And I don't want to get into too much technical jargon, but basically, what that means is there's been a trailblazer groups of professional bodies and employers and providers all working within trailblazer groups, and accountancies were one of the first. So actually they've been a step ahead of what's in some sectors still not finalized. It means that with standards the big difference is that they are assessed in a different way. So the training will be delivered by one organisation, and in the same way as a degree would be kind of second marked or validated by a different university or higher education college. That's how they are now. So there's major transitions going on, and currently within accounting. So whereas AAT level 2 still exists, that will gradually be replaced by a new standard, and it doesn't devalue them in any way, shape or form because they are written by the professional bodies and industry. So currently there is the assistant accountant level 3 that's been launched, and that's quite popular. So that's for like your trainee accountants or entry level. There's also the level 4 in taxation, and then there's level 7, which is your postgrad master's level in professional accountancy. So yeah, and I mean the exciting thing really is with accountancy is that somebody can go to university and then do their postgrad quals, or somebody can start at a level 2, work all the way up, take a different route, but actually end up with the same qualification but different entry levels and obviously different levels of experience. So it's exciting.
Excellent. So there has been a few changes over the past few months, and really, hasn't it?
And it's ongoing. So at the minute, there's still a level 2 being developed. There's more level 4 ones being done. I mean the taxation one, but there's things like advanced credit controller. That's a brand new standard, and then people doing that one can go off and do the certificate in management or certificate in debt management. So yeah, it's kind of evolving all the time. But the accounting profession is actually a step ahead of lots of industries. So.
Excellent. And how would you recommend people keep up to date with all the changes that are taking place with this?
I mean, we're happy to advise if people want us to, but there's a government website organisation called Institute for Apprenticeships. They're all the new standards that are either in development or approved. It's a bit of a clunky site, and if you type in a keyword on the left and put in accountancy, it actually doesn't pick up the level 3, but if people struggle with it, then I'm happy to help, because obviously it's in our best interest to make sure we're up to date.
Excellent. Okay, I think we've got somebody dialing in at the moment, so I'll just see if I can mute that, and then they can hear you. We can go from there. So that's great. And Sarah, obviously, you know, within the realms of people who are able to do apprenticeships, you can pretty much get anybody. What is the best way of recruiting apprentices into businesses? So I'm thinking about the process of actually getting them in, deciding what you want them to do, then actually that process of making sure that you give them the right information so they are right within your practice.
Yeah, well, in terms of recruitment, really. So, in terms of how you recruit and get apprentices in, you know, because lots of people say, well, how do I find these people? We obviously support on that, as do lots of other providers. So, there are different ways in which you can do the recruitment and selection process. From a vacancy goes up onto the National Apprenticeship site, and then organisations really have the option, and sometimes it's down to budget constraints, but sometimes it's down to expertise they have within their own, you know, if they're used to recruiting, for example, historically. So they can either do their own recruitment and interviewing, or what we do is we telephone screen all the candidates, and then we invite them to an assessment centre. That's when they'll do the personality profiling and various aptitude tests. That way you can see people in a 3-hour session, and you'll know whether they fit best with your organisation or not. So there are different methods. In terms of, because we get asked a question a lot, you know, some people will say, well, I'm nervous about taking on a young person. And we always say, well, imagine well, firstly, some people are taking on people in their 30s who are career switchers, so it's not always about the young people.
Right, so apprentices don't have to be straight from school then?
No.
Right.
No. So they're kind of designed in the main for that. But what we're seeing, I mean, we've just recently appointed for a company in Northampton, and the person who actually won the post was somebody who was actually a manager for Aldi, and decided he wanted to do a career, a change of career, and all accountancy positions are obviously going to qualified people. He didn't want to go to college full time and lose some salary, lose his salary. So that's the option he's taken. But yeah, I mean, it's more the exception than the norm, but it's definitely possible, and the applicants are there.
Yeah,
So,
I remember you talking to me about one lady who'd returned to work after having children as well, didn't she?
yeah. So so because she's got a gap on her CV. Yeah. So.
Great. So,
but in terms of, can I just get one point over, because I think this is really quite important as well, is because we do get asked a lot, or we're worried. It's really important to plan for an apprentice once they're in post. It's also important in terms of, a point on attitude rather, but then train them the skills. And I think it's about, what we always advise is that think of a time when you were in a job that you hated it, where you didn't feel valued as an employee, and think about the aspects of that which tend to be your manager that had a massive influence on that. And then think of a time where you were properly engaged, you were valued, you were trusted to do the job, and what factors were the enabling ones to create a great environment. And just doing that piece of work beforehand helps you to put a little bit of a plan together in. So for example, with our apprentices, because we're growing our business through apprentices, we we do set hours. We'll do the 9 to 5, but actually in the first month we do let them go home early because they're tired, if they're young people from school, and just little things like that, really. So
if any of our members have got team members who are in the practice, can they move on to an apprenticeship framework then? Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what they're designed for as well. I mean, it's interesting because the latest stats were, they were published data from 2016, but over 44% of all apprenticeships were people were aged 25 plus, and a lot of those people were in the workplace already. So apprenticeships, it's just an unfortunate term, really, that they've kept that that descriptor, but yeah, so we've got people who are signing up to do the level 7. For people, I don't think anybody's in your groups in public sector, but there's the SIPFA qualification, level 7 postgrad. So we manage all Leicester City Council's apprenticeships, and we've got 2 just signed up to go through that, and they're existing accountants. So yeah, absolutely.
Using apprenticeships, you could almost qualify for a postgraduate route through even being in a practice by using that structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in 4 or 5 years' time, the current qualifications that we're all familiar with won't really exist. It'll all be apprenticeship standards.
Fantastic. And are you seeing a change in the people who are coming through as apprentices now? Is it already the same people, or people seeing this as a valid opportunity, valid alternative to going to university?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because in the accountants, we do vacancies in all sectors, but we've never struggled ever to fill a vacancy for an accountancy. We get good applicants, we get we get a good quality as well as quantity coming through, but what we are seeing as well is and I think this is a good measure, really, is that we're seeing inquiries from people who from public schools. So that's a real good barometer, I think, of the way that even their parents, so fee-paying parents are happy for their children to look at apprenticeships as a route. So yeah.
So it is opening up, and it's becoming one.
Massively.
From what you said there, apprentice, being an apprentice doesn't really do justice to what people can actually do and do with the qualifications. It's a phenomenal route. Now, I know you've had a couple of questions through from Michael Hem from MBH. I think I might hand those over to you to sort of ask what is, put
okay.
A bit like the telegrams. For everyone else who's with us, please drop any questions in the chat box. or just put, I'd like to ask a question, and what I'll do is I'll mute you so you can ask a question and have that bit of a discussion with Sarah. So there's two ways of doing that, but just to kick this off, we'll take what Michael's put to you first. Michael, he's put some really interesting questions for us.
Right. So the first question he asked was, what cutting edge opportunities are available for businesses like ours? And that's quite a broad, general sweeping statement kind of question. I mean, for me, I think the new standards are absolutely cutting edge, and they are an absolute response to what industry has said they need. So that was the question and my answer to the first one. The second question was, teach me something about apprenticeships that I don't know, and I have no idea what he knows already. So so that's why it's good to have the chat, really, the chat, so that I can answer questions that are specific to people who want to know more, and I know what level of knowledge they need to gain. He then asked, how would you structure a recruitment plan? And I've kind of covered that a bit off already. It's very important to appoint on attitude, because you can train the skills. It's about being patient and positive, but it's actually planning. Their first month or so is about giving them the work skills as well. If it's a young school leaver, they will be used to breaks in the day and using their mobile phones pretty much when they wanted to. And it's about making it clear and writing up I'm not a big advocate of policies, but writing very brief policy statements to say these kind of behaviours are what's accepted in the workplace, and these are the ones that aren't. Dress code as well, always state a dress code, just in case. We've only had one incident in 6 years where somebody wore a top to work that was with a discriminatory statement on it. They didn't have any dress code policy, so you just need to literally do a paragraph just to cover yourself for that. And again, just plan it in and think of the best experience you had when you were learning and try and pass that on.
Great. We've had a question from Michelle to kick off the rest of us, and this is an interesting one, so I've seen this out there. What level of salary should an apprentice expect?
Good one. Yeah. Okay. So the government have allow organisations to have a lower apprenticeship rate for the first year of their apprenticeship. That currently is £3.70 an hour. We get mixed reactions from that. Some people go, "Oh, that's great," and others go, "Well, that's cheap labour kind of thing." But it's important to bear in mind that this is an alternative to them going to college, so they're learning practical experience as well as getting some money for it and not getting into debt. On average, we always recommend anyway that you pay slightly above that, only because some applicants will perceive that as being a positive, that an employer is willing to pay slightly higher. So, and then you can, it doesn't matter what age somebody, if you've got a career switcher, you can pay them the £370, but that's only for the first 12 months. The average entry level qualification is 18 months, and then in the second year you have to pay them the minimum according to the national minimum wage.
Okay. And with the apprenticeships, do they get any support with salary for people, or is it purely?
There is a bit there's some funding out there. The government, so the Skills Funding Agency, offer a couple of grants. So if somebody is aged 16 to 18, then there'll be a total grant of £1,000. They get £500 after 3 months, and then they get £500 at the end. And if somebody is if they're on a care plan, or if they're an ex-local authority looked after care person, the age limit is higher at 23. But it's also always worth checking with the local authorities. So our district council here in sunny Market Harbour, they offer a grant of £750 if your apprentice is still in post at 13 weeks. So definitely check out with your local authorities, but it's certainly not in everyone.
And of course, if people go through a supplier yourself, you'll be able to help them and give them guidance on these things.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We can signpost and advise on what questions to ask and who to ask. Yeah.
Fantastic. So when they're doing this study as well as their work, what percentage of their working week would they actually be expected to be studying, and what percentage of their working week would they be working for?
Well, in a year, in the time period, they say that they should be 20% off the job learning. So, and that's to make sure that they are actually doing some learning. And that's on average 1 day a week. In reality, the first month is definitely all learning, so that you could almost class that first month. But on average, it's about all training providers offer different ways to deliver the training. Some can do a lot of it online, and some will do workshops on a location, and some will do a combination of blended. But it's pretty much you would need to release them really, and sometimes that's just putting them in another room in the offices, which is what we do. So we give ours Thursday mornings off to do their studies, and then they have assessors and tutors come in at different times. But it's about half to three. They say 20% off the job overall.
And just for people who have not sort of been in the training environment, blended learning. Do you want to just explain a little bit about what
Sorry, yeah, Jock. So blended learning is it's a range of it's a range of teaching techniques really. So the we're all technology now, aren't they? So blended learning could be a combination of having like webinars, online tutorials. It could be going to a workshop. It could be some having virtual lectures by Skype or actual face-to-face physical, and then some self-learning and studying and research. So they just call that blended learning.
And the apprentices back in the workplace, how much supervision will be expected from the sort of accountancy manager for them? Or is it sort of controlled by college?
Well, I think in the first, I mean, we always recommend that we get the training provider gets them signed up as early on as possible because we're all busy people. You know, I run my own business myself. It's when you first get an apprentice, it is quite time consuming. I'm not going to deny that. It's a young person who isn't used to your organisation and may not be used to a working environment. I mean, it's a very rewarding one. You know, also wouldn't be in business doing it or advocating it. But yeah, people aren't, they're not stupid people. They tend to be relatively intelligent, apprentices are, and you give them something to do and they'll do it quickly. I mean, one thing as well is I think we talked about this when we were on the millennials webinar, Andrea. You can give a young person something to do that you expect to take a day and it takes them 2 hours. So it's like plan the work in for them, let them shadow you for a while as well so they get familiar, and then just give them pieces of work to do as you would any trainee.
Okay. Now, Sarah, so just reply to this. So we've had a couple of questions come in. One of those is from Siobhan Logan. So Siobhan's asked, how are local colleges engaging with apprenticeship schemes?
How are local colleges engaging with apprentices?
Apprenticeship schemes is what
schemes. Yeah, I mean, we use a range of.
Just in case you want to ask anything as we go on this one. So carry on, Sarah.
Sorry. In terms of training providers that are accredited to offer accountancy qualifications, there's colleges and there's private training providers. Not all colleges are offering the standard, so it's just a case of seeing whether the local college in the area does offer it. Yeah, that's all I can answer on that one really, because we tend to use mainly private providers because not all colleges are offering it. So we will also use your Kaplans and your EPPs. I don't know if people have heard of those.
Okay. EPPs are?
BPP, so it's a training provider. So BPP and Kaplan are probably the two biggest accountancy qualification providers in the country, yeah.
Great. Now, Jafar's come across to us. How do you retain apprentices? And what he's put here is, as soon as they get some experience, they're looking to move on.
I absolutely have no evidence of that whatsoever in our experience at all. Certainly not, and 100% retention rate with accountants, accountancy practices, recruiting apprentices. In other sectors, some do leave. I think the key is about making sure you've selected the right person, and if you get your recruitment right, which is why we do our assessment days, because it really is almost seeing how they are in a setting before. You can also offer work experience as well to make sure the person is right. And if you put those steps in place, I mean, we've done the data analysis on ours. It was last October we measured it. But on average, the government statistics are that 1 in 3 apprentices will leave. But going through an assessment centre process, that actually goes to 1 in 7. So you're increasing the probability massively by getting your recruitment right. It's like all staff, not all staff will stay with you forever. But it's very rare that apprentices leave an accountancy standard unless a practice, unless they've not been looked after properly and they're unhappy.
Okay, so it's about building that relationship and keeping on working.
I mean, what we do as well as part of our service, once an apprentice is signed up, we keep in touch with them. So we've got a quality team that are contacted with all our apprentices between 4 and 12 weeks. So if we can pick up any niggles and where we think they've got wobbles, then we'll do all we can to keep them to stay, encourage them to stay rather.
Great. And what sort of things do you do when you do the assessments on them before they join a practice? What sort of, I don't need to go through everything, just give a flavour of the sort of things that you cover with them.
Yeah, so we would normally shortlist between 4 and 8 applicants, and then we will do a group activity just to see how they're interacting with the team, and you spot the natural leaders and you just spot the personality types really. We do what's called strength-based recruitment processes, so we're interested in where they feel their strengths are, where they were inspired, who inspired them at school, what subjects they were interested in. We also will do for accountancy, we'll do obviously numerical testing, we'll also do logic testing, and we will do visual accuracy tests, and within that as well we'll also build in the one-to-one interviews. So it's really important, we won't do any assessment day unless the hiring person is present, and then we'll build in within that session interviews for the candidates, so you're getting everything done in that 3-hour slot.
Now what I've just done is I have just unmuted you all because I thought it might be quite useful if there's any questions to come through to Sarah. And I know Michelle's just dropped one into the box, so I'm going to ask Michelle to ask that to Sarah just to get a bit of a conversation going there. If for some reason it doesn't work, I will ask the question, but I'll hand over to Michelle because you've got a really good question there, and just anything you want to pick up there with Sarah. So welcome, Michelle.
Hi.
Sarah, can you hear Michelle?
I can hear, yeah.
We've just taken a member of staff on. We've had her for 6 months and we wanted to put her through training, and we got her to look into it herself, and we actually went through Reed training for an apprenticeship. We've got quite a lot of funding for that, but she's questioning sort of the level of salary and the assistance that we're giving towards her, because speaking to others that are on the Reed, she's feeling that bigger companies are offering them more. And I did an appraisal with her just last week, and she's quite disgruntled about the fact that we don't pay, because she actually attends weekend courses. And we give her if she's done a weekend course, we give her 2 days off in the following week so that she doesn't go over her hours.
Yeah, that's fantastic, yeah.
But she basically, we were told that we needed to do that, but she's pushing us for more money and for more assistance towards it. One of the directors here did her training in a very similar way and is very uptight about it, because like she said, when she did her training she got no assistance, and we feel we're being quite generous in what we're doing. She's young. Sorry, I'm just going to close the door in case anybody's listening.
Yeah.
You've leaned into your computer, you can't quite see your face as much. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
And she's just pushing us all the time, wanting more and more. And one of the directors is starting to resent the fact that we went down that route, because she thinks she should be grateful for what she's got and the assistance we're giving her. But the member of staff is constantly asking for more and more and more.
Okay, so is this member of staff on an apprenticeship programme? So when you say assistance, are you saying financial assistance or other assistance?
We're paying her a salary, which is why I did the salary question at the top. We pay her above minimum wage,
yeah,
but not the apprentice rate. We pay her the normal rate, even though she's in her first year of apprenticeship. So we're paying her, I think, because of her age, we're paying her $7.50 an hour. or a salary based on that, which comes out to about just over 14,500.
Yeah.
She's believing that she should be on a lot more, and that she should have it structured that as soon as she passes an exam, that should go up, and she should get travel paid, and she actually has accommodation when she goes down there, which she doesn't need to because it's only an hour's drive, and we've sort of said, no, if you choose to do that, that's at your expense.
Yeah.
So,
What course is she doing?
she's doing SEMA. She's signed up for 4 years.
Okay. Yeah, tricky one. I mean, if it was me, I would get in touch with retraining and speak to retraining and say, you know, how is she as a student?
Yeah.
How's she getting on? Because there might be other things. You know, some people blame other things and always say, I always think it raises a red flag when somebody says everybody else on the course is getting X, Y, Z. I think it's incredibly generous of you that you are giving her the 2 days off, the weekend study. I mean, I think you kind of have to. I understand what the you know, the manager or director is it that's saying, well, you know, in my day it was like this, because sometimes I feel a bit like that. I think they're very lucky that they're getting it funded, but you kind of have to park that really, in a way. But I would ring the retraining, find out how she's getting on as a student, because she might be coming across as a negative student anyway. I would also get retraining guidance, you know, and it's kind of getting evidence based and saying, you know, what on average are people getting paid. I mean, for me, I think 14 grand. I mean, you know, are you based in London?
No, we're in Hereford.
No. Yeah, so I think 14.5 grand. You know, I've got junior accountants who are being paid £5 an hour, you know, trainees. So yeah, but just, you know, build an evidence up and then just sit down with it really. Yeah, sorry you're having that experience. Yeah, I haven't actually had that one before, but that's how I would approach it.
We're quite a young firm, so it's
It's not typical. It's just unfortunate, but yeah, build up an evidence base and definitely speak to Reed.
Okay, thank you.
That's useful to know. So if anybody else has got things going on with apprentices, it's good to know what the route is to go back and actually, you know, that is a red flag there. Are there any other, just while we're on that, are there any other red flags you would recognise in terms of things that people say or do that you think actually this isn't working out with them? And that's a bit of a negative question. We're just thinking that, you know, people sort of compare themselves against other. Is there any other little warnings there you would just go, I need to get some support on that?
I mean, I think we pick up little red flags all the way, which is why we decided we would do the evaluation service, you know, 6 years ago, because we almost have a duty of care. But little niggles are, I mean, sometimes some have got self-confidence issues, and it doesn't, you know, we all know that if you meet a young person with self-confidence issues, they don't say, oh, I've not got much confidence. Sometimes they're the opposite, you know, so they project a bit of attitude kind of thing and stuff, or sometimes they're not really doing any studying. But the reason why we're in contact is just to help support them and encourage them along the way. But you know, sometimes niggles are about the training providers not making the visits, to be honest. So, you know, it can be that the apprentices are keen as mustard to crack on, but the assessors aren't working at a pace quick enough for them because they're over keen. So that it works on all sides. And sometimes we have, you know, they say we want more work to do with, you know, with our employers. It doesn't tend to happen that much in accountancy, but they're not letting us do anything. But yeah.
Okay, no, that's good. So what we've covered so far, and I'll just throw it open for final questions, is Sarah's been through the background to how they do things down at Salad Skills. She's taken us through the apprentice frameworks, the different qualifications open to accountancy, and more importantly, the changes that are made to that thing. We've had a look at the process with accountants and apprentices into it. We've also looked at apprentices as part of that lifelong learning, going right through to a level 7. So we've covered those. We've had some questions from Michael and also a bit of a case through there from Michelle, who's sort of new into this field. Has anybody else got any questions or anything they'd like to just run by Sarah relating to apprentices or the qualifications while they're on? If you have, everyone I think has been unmuted or should go on. Please just ask the questions now, and if not, we will just get them over to Sarah to sort of round up the session. Any other questions from anyone? No, that's fine. Okay, Sarah. Is there anything else we need to be aware of, or anything else we need to be doing? I mean, do having apprentices make a difference to the office when they're in place? Do they change other people's views? Do they sort of, change the dynamics of the office?
I mean, I think so, honestly, in a good way, really. I mean, either we've been incredibly lucky with the apprentices that we have. I just think they add joy to the office, and also I think as well, what else do they offer? I think it's just very rewarding, starting somebody on their journey and giving them that career option. I mean, for us, it's really important to us that Salad Skills is an exemplar employer. So for us, yeah, it's just something that we do find rewarding. I mean, sometimes it can be frustrating. Our last apprentice, Harriet, was told, so she came to us at 17, and she was told, I can't spell and I might be a bit dyslexic, and her writing was terrible. And I think it's worrying really, but nobody within the educational sector had sat down with her and said, well, words might not come to you easily, but there's dictionaries, especially with Google, and just learn to check your work. And now, 2 years later, if she gets an email come in with a spelling mistake on it, she's just horrified. Whereas 2 years ago, she sometimes was a bit huffy with me or the team if we were telling her off because an email had got a spelling mistake on it or something. So yeah.
Yeah, so they are a good experience. Oh,
I think so, yeah.
Fantastic. So, and of course, if members want to talk to you about it or pick your brains in terms of not particularly sort of specific issues they've got, but in terms of what's the best way to do this or what's the best level to do.
Absolutely, no, absolutely, and also, I mean, go on to, if you wanted salary advice and everything. I was just thinking for Michelle, was it? If you go on to findanapprenticeship.org.uk, if you Googled, typed in there accountancy vacancies, there might be vacancies up there that might be at a higher level that you can get an idea of what salaries they're on as well, just to help there.
So there is information out there, and I think just remind us of that website you said earlier. So the government.
The earlier one is Institute for Apprenticeships.
Right, that's a good one. And
that's the standard one. That's the one that tells you all about the actual qualifications themselves. So,
and that will help you with any changes that are taking place and things. And if
absolutely, yes.
Sarah, what's the best email for yourself?
It's sarah.cripps@saladskills.co.uk.
Fantastic, that's brilliant. Okie dokie. Well, I think we've been through all the questions. We've answered Michael's questions there. So, on behalf of us that have all been online, Sarah, you're always a pleasure to deal with. You've become a real great friend of ABN over the years. And I think, that's just been fantastic. And, I know there'll be other things. That being said, if there's anything else you think actually you wouldn't mind Sarah doing a webinar, or she's done one for us already on millennials, which if you've not watched, it is well worth watching. She's talked to us about apprenticeships there. If there's anything else you think actually, I'd really like Sarah to talk to us about that, drop me a message or go on our closed Facebook page, and I'll talk to Sarah offline about structuring some sessions up about those. Okay, so on behalf of us all here at ABN and our members, I'd just like to say a very, very big thank you for your time. There's a lot of thank yous dropping in the chat box there for you as well. And I hope that's been of use to you. So, it is new blood coming into the industry. It's a great route that we've got there. I think it's with anything like this. Use it and use it to develop your business, recruit with care, and hopefully your journey with people will become a lot more beneficial to you and a lot more beneficial to them. And that's it from me. Thank you.
All right. Good luck, all.
Thank you.